50, 51, 52, 43, 53,
55.
57.
Good. That gave me a little pep in my step that I needed.
The pep in your motherfucking step.
Give it. Hello, and welcome to the Interstate Gamers podcast. I'm your host, Peter, a.k.a. Duo For Real.
And I'm also your host, Kevin, a.k.a. K-Slugs.
Feels weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels very weird.
Yeah, well, the reason this is weird to all the listeners out there is because this is a special episode. We're not reviewing a game this episode, but rather we are going back through our ratings from the past 13 reviews, and we're adjusting them a little bit. Each of us for different reasons, and we'll get into that in a second. But we were looking through our ratings, and we saw some numbers that we felt like we might have, inflated or deflated, I guess, and thought that might be cause for us to go back and kind of refine these ratings now that we know what we're doing just a little bit more. Kevin, what inspired you? Because I think this was your idea, if I'm remembering correctly. What inspired you to do this and to make it into an episode?
Right. Well, I was going over all the ratings, and I was like, okay, well, some of these things make sense and some of them don't. Season 1 was our first go at all of this. So obviously our craft wasn't going to be perfected in the first season. We had to refine some things, a little bit of the process. So while you were going to refine, some of your scores that you basically improved from your old ranking system, I thought it would be a really good opportunity for me to also just slightly tweak some of my scores that I thought should be tweaked because of some later scores that I was giving games. And I kind of figured out how to rate these games a little better. While overall, I think I did a pretty good job in season 1. I do think I made some mistakes and maybe some biases here and there. So I did my best to try to correct those. So that's kind of the main reason for this. And I thought it would be really beneficial and really fun to keep it open to the public instead of just kind of doing it and then just being like, oh, look, we changed it, So I'm glad we're able to do this.
Yeah, I think that people, any fans out there who are really into the number crunching, so to speak, will appreciate this.
For
and
sure.
Anyone listening who's maybe not into that so much, this is a totally bonus episode. You can skip it if you want. We won't feel too bad.
No.
But yeah, as you said, my old rating system up until episode 8, I think, or episode 7 of season 1, was that I would give each category a score out of 5 and then multiply that times 20 to get my out of 100, which obviously doesn't leave a lot of room for finesse. So I went back and re-rated all those games. And nothing too drastic changed, really, except for one game, and we'll get to that when we get to it. But just, now that numbers are a little bit finer, the scores reflect more accurately how I feel about the game. And some games with our combined changes did change their overall ranking, and we're going to talk about that as well. All right, so first up, episode 1, season 1, Mario Kart 64. Kev, what did you change about this game?
Not too much different. The only thing I really changed was the audio, and it's very minute. It just went down total 3 points from a 90. I thought, the audio, it was pretty good. I didn't think it beat out a lot of other games that we had. So that's kind of really my reasoning behind that. But not too much change for me on Mario Kart.
So what's your overall rating now?
My overall rating for Mario Kart is an 83.2, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Cool.
That is indeed what I'm asking. Yeah, pretty cool. I didn't make too many changes either. The biggest change for me was that my audio came down from a perfect 5 out of 5 to a 90 out of 100.
Cool.
Made a couple other changes here and there, but nothing too significant. So my overall rating is now an 83.3, which is very close to your rating.
Yeah.
And turns out our overall IG rating is, in fact, an 83.3.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. So this game now ranks, let's see, 11th out of, it's tied for 10th, actually, out of 13. And it was ranked number 10 before, so nothing really has changed in terms of our good friend Mario Kart. Just little refinements from you and me.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, it's just a speck of dust in this game ranking universe we got going here.
Yeah. Maybe it'll matter later down the road when we rank some other games that are pretty close to it.
Yeah. All right, well, next up, Star Fox 64, a game that I have a lot of bias in favor of, which did affect my changes a little bit now that I was kind of refining my system and trying to eliminate a little bit of that bias. Let's see, big changes I made. I didn't make too many big changes. I guess one big change is that my visuals went down from a 100 to a 90. Again, just kind of finding that middle ground that I couldn't do before in my old system. Everything else is being somewhat similar to what it was before, but overall, my overall score went down from a 93.3 to a 90.8, which is a couple points difference. How about you, Kev Dog?
I actually didn't change anything about Star Fox 64. I thought I did a pretty good job first time around.
Got it in one.
Yeah. Got him.
Got it.
Which is crazy. It's the second episode. You'd think I would have just nerfed it to the ground, but nope. No changes here.
You were trusting your instincts, as Peppy would say.
And
it worked out well for you.
That's really good.
Well, cool. So our overall rating for this episode is a 91.6 with our changes, or mine, I guess. And this episode used to be ranked number 2, but now it's actually ranked number 4. And we'll see some of those more, like some more of those higher numbered changes as we go down the list. But cool. Kev, why don't you introduce our next game?
Our next game, I believe it is Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not too much change for me again. And, you know, like I said, here and there is just where I'm going to nitpick on my ratings. I thought my visuals was a little too low on Roller Coaster Tycoon, so I bumped it up from an 85 to an 87, and that's really the only thing that I did. I kind of used a comparison from other visuals in other games to kind of determine that score.
Yeah, I didn't change too much either, really. My overall rating changed from a 90 to an 89.2, so, you know, kind of just splitting hairs by that point.
Yeah.
But Roller Coaster Tycoon now, our overall rating is an 89.9, and it is ranked number 7.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's still 7. It was 7 before, too. So, once again,
barely missing that 90.
Just oh, man, so painful to watch. You know, it's like in school when you get like a 98 on a test, and you're like, shit, if I'd studied for 2 more seconds, I would have gotten 100.
Or that a-hole professor that won't bump up their grade.
Hate those people, man. I actually don't hate anyone. This is a positivity podcast for anyone who's not aware. And our next game, which actually oozes with positivity on its own merit, is Kirby and the Amazing Mirror.
Yeah.
Very colorful, very happy, fun game. I didn't change too much about this game either. Basically, my overall rating went from an 86.7 to an 88.3, so I buffed it just a little bit. How about you?
Right. And on my end, I changed the gameplay from 93 to 90. I kind of nerfed it a little bit. I thought the gameplay was a little bit high to be a 93.
Yeah, that's interesting. My gameplay is at an 85, and yours is at a 93. So that's pretty pretty disparate. I think part of it, and I talked about this when we actually did this episode, but much of the game across all categories except for content was recycled and like kind of updated just a little bit from its predecessor game on the Game Boy Advance. So I think that maybe colored my ratings more than it did yours. But having said all that, what's your overall score now for it?
My overall score now is 88.2.
Nice. And mine's an 88.3. Which brings our IG rating to 88.3. It is ranked number 8, and it was in the past also ranked number 8, so once again, not much changed. Really, most of these ranking changes happened kind of at the top end. We still have some of those episodes to get to as we work our way down.
Yeah.
A couple things changed in the bottom end as well.
What's crazy to note here is that it's sitting at a number 8, but with like a ranking of 88.3. That's nuts.
We talk about some of our not so favorite games. Yeah, we haven't done that yet.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. You guys don't even know, but we're getting there.
Soon
TM. So after that, we have Metroid Zero Mission, which was one of my highest rated games previously, and it's still pretty high up there. I gave it a bunch of hundreds and then an 80, the 80 being in content. So I kind of just found the middle grounds between some of those. I still think it really does awesome in some areas like visuals. I thought still spectacular. Gameplay I still think is amazing. So those are still like hot, fresh, cold, fat, skinny 95s. But my overall rating went down about 3 points. So now it's at a 90.8 for P. Willie.
Right. This game was actually one of the games I actually gave a buff. Like the few games I gave a buff because I nerfed quite a few games in our revisions, but this one got a buff in its content. It went from 80 to 83. I think it was a little bit too harsh on the content for Metroid Zero Mission, although not super in depth. I think it deserves more than an 80. So,
yeah, that's funny you did that because I buffed my content from an 80 to an 85. So, kind of similar thought patterns there.
Yeah.
Not that I could have given an 85 in my old stupid rating system, but bringing the justice back now.
Right.
So our overall rating for this game is now a 90.1.
Yeah.
Sitting pretty at 6th place, just as it was in the past. Moving on from that, oh boy, this is one that's changed a lot, is Super Mario World.
Oof.
For the Super Mario Nintendo Entertainment System. So infamously, I gave this game I blame my old system.
The perfect game.
This game, okay, so my score is still really high, but it's definitely not 100 anymore. Basically, I gave it its highest category score I gave is a 95, and the lowest is a 90. So I still think it's an amazing game. But long story short, my overall rating went down from a perfect, flawless 100 down to a 94.2.
Right.
Still my highest rated game, I believe. Yep, it is. But it's more reasonable now. How about you?
Right. I think I must have been inspired by your perfect 100 because I was looking at my rankings. I was like, it's a little high in some categories. So, yeah, I nerfed it quite a bit too, only in 2 categories, and they mostly deal with aesthetics. I went down in Super Mario World's audio from a 95 to a 90. And then on its visuals, I went from a 97 to a 92. So it definitely changed the ranking there for me as well. My overall rating for it's 91. So,
yeah, which brings our IG rating to a 92.6, which is tied for first with another very special game that I won't spoil at this moment. I think one of our listeners will appreciate that when we get to it. So yeah, it's still number 1, although this time it shares the glory, and it's not number 1 by as much of a margin as it used to be.
right.
So falling more in line. So we're doing good. We're doing good, I think. All right, next up is Pokemon Stadium. Kev, what did your revisions entail for this one?
So my revisions went from I just did the gameplay. It went from a 90 to an 85 because I thought 90 was a bit high for Pokemon Stadium. I mean, it's not like super in depth on the gameplay. So I was like, I probably rated that a little high. So 85. And then I think the overall now for me is 85.3.
Yeah, that makes sense. My score for this went up from an 80 to an 80.8. I won't bore you with the details because they are obviously very small. But that brings our overall IG rating to an 83.1. It is now in rank 12 out of 13, whereas it used to be 10. So a little bit of a downward movement happening here for Pokemon Stadium.
Yeah.
Not that it necessarily deserves to be lambasted or anything, but just sometimes the nostalgia goggles, man, they get you.
Yeah. I think that's a little bit of what was the case here for me, at least in terms of gameplay. I was like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, maybe you were still high from watching my invigorating Pokemon Stadium streams on a twitch.tv/deal_4_real.
Shameless plug.
All right, next up is THPS, aka Anthony Hawk's Professional Skateboarder, aka Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't actually change this game, so I'm still sitting at an 83.3. How about you? I
nerfed it in terms of audio. I think I got too hype on I hear it all with my yes. So I went from an 87 to an 83. But overall, that changes me to a 81.2.
Nice. That brings our overall IG score to an 82.3, which puts it, unfortunately, at the bottom slot, number 13 out of 13.
Still hasn't gotten away from that bottom spot.
Yeah, it's still slacking. Tony, gotta do something about this, man. Your game only got an 83. What a shame.
You need to make a sequel, bro.
So the two remaining Season 2 games, Banjo and Stardew Valley, I did not change. However, I believe you did change both of them. So, you want to discuss that?
I do, because it's actually pretty interesting, because as most people know, Banjo is one of my favorite games of all time. So, for me to say what I'm about to say might shock all of you, but I nerfed it pretty hardcore. I say hardcore. I really didn't nerf it hardcore. But I did nerf it. So I think there's something to be said about that. But I nerfed its gameplay, audio, and visuals, and they all went down 2 points.
Damn.
And audio was a perfect 100. But I thought to myself when I was going back through this, I was like, okay, it's pretty damn good, but is it perfect? And I was like, close, but no, I do think there's some, sorry, Grant, I'm sorry, but I think there's some flaws there.
I don't think I've given a perfect score since I changed my rating system. I give a fair amount of 95s, to be totally honest, but I kind of think the same thing where it's like, you know, I might not necessarily have any ideas on how to improve something, but that doesn't mean it's perfect, which is kind of the mindset I go, like, oh, if it could be improved, then it's not perfect, right? And that gets into a bunch of other things with, like, what is the perfect game, or what is the perfect anything, really? And it's kind of like one of those silly, well, maybe not silly, but to me, it's kind of a silly thing to worry about. So I just like, oh, 95, good enough, you know?
Yeah.
It's really good, and I don't know what's wrong with it, but there's probably something wrong with it.
Right.
Yeah, so you went ahead and nerfed Banjo, which brings it down to an overall IG score of 91.8. It is still in the number 3 spot, though, so still getting that bronze.
Yeah.
Definitely not too shabby.
Yeah. It's actually still my highest rated game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy with the spot.
94.5 from you is a pretty high rating.
Yeah.
Got to give it that to you. My highest is a Super Mario World with a 94.2. So we're both pretty similarly hyped on our favorite games.
Yeah, for sure.
So what did you do about Stardew?
Stardew?
Do the do.
Well, what I did...
Do it.
Was I changed the visuals. I was like, okay, it's sitting at a hot, fresh, fat, young...
Old.
Cool, breezy 80. And I was like, all right, that needs to be bumped up a little bit. Because honestly, Stardew Valley looks really pretty. And there's some other games that were pixel art, like, I believe, Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. I rated pretty high on visuals. And I was like, how could I... And also, I think, if I'm going to go back, let me look real quick. Yeah, roller toaster. Roller toaster
Cocoon. RTC.
Yeah. Roller Toaster Cocoon got a much higher visuals than that. And I was like, all right, wait a minute. You know what? Stardew Valley can compete with these. So I gave it an 85. I bumped it up 5 points on its visuals.
Yeah.
Putting me, or my overall rating for Stardew Valley, 90.5.
And my rating is still sitting pretty at a 91.7, which brings our IG rating to a 91.1. It is still in that number 5 spot, no changes there.
Cool.
So there's only one more thing that's changed. And for me, it is from me, I will say that. And I went back and revised my Link to the Past rating. Mm-hmm. The only thing I changed really was the audio rating. I bumped it up from an 85 to a 90. We talked about this in the episode that I felt that maybe, like, I wasn't quite aware of the achievement that the soundtrack was at that point.
Right.
The context of these games is something that I often try to take into account somewhat heavily when it comes to ratings, which is part of the reason why my Super Mario World score is as high as it is.
Yeah. And
so I thought, you know what, this game I think deserves a higher audio score, so I brought that up to a 90 from 85. Brings my overall to a 92.5, which makes it, I believe, my second highest rating. And combined with your 92.7, that brings the overall rating to a 92.6, which makes it our number 2 game on the Interstate Gamers. That is a noticeable jump from number 4 before I did this buff.
Yeah.
And it also, well, actually, no, it's not second. It's actually tied for first.
Yeah.
With Super Mario World. So they're sitting. I've been saying this a lot this episode, but they're sitting pretty. Those are some good ass looking games.
Competition for the crown, man.
Yeah, and they're both on that Super Nintendo train too. So, you know, people always say this is a really good system. From our gigantic sample size of 13 games across different systems, we got some proof here.
Yeah, right. I agree with you. Yeah, no, other consoles need to step it up. Looking at you,
man.
PC.
All right. Well, let's go down the list then. I guess I can. Well, do you want to do the honors of saying our new rankings, number 1 through 13?
Yeah, I actually do. Let's go ahead and rank them real quick. Do you want to go top to bottom or bottom to top?
Let's go bottom to top this time.
All right, let's do it. All right, sitting at last. I'm sorry, Tony. We got Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, number 13. Right above that is Pokemon Stadium at number 12. 83.1. I'm going to start saying these rankings. Tony Hawk was 82.3. At an 83.3, tied for, would this be 11th?
It'd be 10th.
10th? Oh, yeah, 10th, right. Tied for 10th is Donkey Kong Country. It's tied with Mario Kart 64, also at an 83.3. And above that is Rocket League at 86.8. So that's number 9. Kirby and the Amazing Mirror is at an 88.3 at number 8.
That's a lot of 8s.
Yeah. And number 7 is Roller Toaster Tycoon. Cocoon.
Let's get it right.
It's sitting at number 7 at an 89.9. Metroid Zero Mission, number 6, 90.1. Stardew Valley, number 5, 91.1. Star Fox 64, number 4, at a 91.6. We're getting to the minutia of the points right here. Number 3, Banjo-Kazooie, whoop, whoop, sitting at a 91.8. Link to the Past is tied for first with Super Mario World at 92.6. Who can take that crown? Tune in to the next episodes to find out.
Tune in to the next time we maybe possibly do this.
Yeah.
Which hopefully will not be any sooner than season 3. Kevin and I were wondering, do we want to go back and reevaluate these on the regular? And I think what we probably decided was, if we really feel like we need to do this at some point, then we can do it sometime in season 3. But hopefully we're getting things pretty right this time around.
Yeah, I think we are. I'm really satisfied with these rankings. And I think they're really close to they were already really close to their Metacritic and IGN scores and things like that. So, and we kind of also have some things about us and our rankings that set them apart too. So I really enjoy what we have, the scores we have now. Yeah.
And what I think is pretty telling is that not much has changed in terms of the rankings between then and now. Really, I mean, the top kind of shook around a little bit because Link to the Past got buffed pretty decently. Thanks to me. You're welcome, Chris. And then a couple of the games at the bottom changed. Again, these are only shifts of 2 rankings at the most. So we didn't reinvent the wheel here, is basically what I'm getting at. But we looked at this opportunity to do this, and we thought it'd be a good thing to do and a good thing to share with the people, those of you who are interested.
This is really fun. I enjoy doing this.
Yeah. Fun little snack-sized episode for all you IG fans out there who just can't wait the 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Who the fuck do we think we are? I mean,
Yeah. God, we should just do this, every day. We should rate a game every day. This should be our jobs.
Game a Day. It's my new podcast featuring case logs.
Well, cool, man. I'm about ready to wrap this up. How about you?
I am as well. Hey, why don't you put the pressure on me to say something funny to close out this time? Since I'm always just doing that so cruelly to you.
Say something funny. Do it.
Do it. God. 47.
Whoop.
Since we're talking about all these numbers.
Under pressure. Raining down on me.
Pushing down on you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this bonus episode. Hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you next time.
Love you.
Bye.